Hey there, and welcome to Scandal Steep, where you get entertained about celebrity scandal. Richard Pryor's life was filled with brilliance, contradictions, and pain, but few stories capture the complexity of his world more than the one involving his closest friend and collaborator, Paul Mooney. What started as one of comedy's most legendary partnerships eventually unraveled into betrayal, heartbreak, and even talk of murder. According to accounts, Pryor once offered a staggering $1 million to have Mooney killed after discovering a violation that cut to the very core of his family and trust. The relationship between Pryor and Mooney had once seemed unbreakable. In the late 1960s, the two formed what many saw as the perfect creative duo. They understood each other's genius instinctively, working together like comedy's version of Tonto and the Lone Ranger, or Lucy and Ethel. Pryor was the performer, Mooney the writer, though both shared talents in each role. Together, they created groundbreaking material that shaped a generation of comedy and redefined what was possible on stage. Their first meeting was less than smooth. Pryor, known for his wild personality, once suggested a group encounter, and Mooney responded by throwing him out of his apartment. But fate intervened weeks later at a Trini Lopez concert, where the two reconnected and realized they shared a creative spark unlike anything else. That spark ignited a partnership that would leave an indelible mark on comedy. Mooney didn't just write for Pryor, he channeled his inner demons into performances that were raw, honest, and fearless. Pryor trusted him completely, even giving him full control over talent casting for The Richard Pryor Show. Mooney, in turn, introduced the world to future legends like Robin Williams, Sandra Bernhard, Tim Reed, Marsha Warfield, and John Witherspoon. The collaboration was more than just professional, it was deeply personal. Mooney was welcomed into Pryor's home, treated as family, and trusted with the most intimate parts of his life. But that closeness came at a devastating cost. According to Rashon Kahn, Pryor's former bodyguard, the friendship turned to ash in the early 1980s when Pryor discovered that Mooney had allegedly violated his son, Richard Pryor Jr. The details remain murky, but if true, the betrayal was unspeakable. The man Pryor trusted most had crossed the most sacred boundary of all, his family. The discovery ignited a rage in Pryor that was impossible to contain. Raised in an environment of violence and exploitation, Pryor knew betrayal all too well, but this was different. This was personal. This was family. He had shared his career, his trust, and his deepest vulnerabilities with Mooney, only to realize that the loyalty he thought was unshakable may have been a facade. For Pryor, the violation struck on two levels: the harm done to his son and the destruction of trust between two men who had built their legacies together. Kahn recalled Pryor's devastation, not only at the act itself, but at the thought that someone he treated like a brother could do something so monstrous. Pryor Jr., years later, admitted that when he learned of his father's reaction, he wept. For years, he had believed his father never knew what had happened. Realizing that Pryor not only knew, but also had contemplated violent justice was both painful and validating. This was the moment the legendary partnership began its descent into darkness. Pryor wasn't just angry, he was ready to kill. According to Kahn, Pryor offered him $1 million to arrange Mooney's murder. At first, Kahn dismissed it as the drug-fueled ramblings of a man high on cocaine. Pryor had a pattern. From Friday to Sunday he'd binge, then by Wednesday he would sober up. But when Kahn brought it up days later, Pryor's response was chillingly sober. He was serious. He wanted Mooney dead. $1 million in the early 1980s wasn't just a lot of money. It was enough to attract serious killers. Kahn worried that offering that much for a job usually done for $10,000 would create unnecessary attention. But Pryor wasn't thinking practically. The enormous bounty wasn't just about logistics, it was a statement. Mooney's betrayal was so profound that Pryor wanted the price on his head to match the gravity of the crime. The situation reached a terrifying climax in June 1980. Pryor, consumed by addiction and rage, accidentally set himself on fire while freebasing cocaine. He suffered third-degree burns over half his body. The incident, widely reported as an accident, was later admitted by Pryor to have been a suicide attempt. What few knew at the time was that this horrific moment may have saved Paul Mooney's life. Pryor's focus shifted from vengeance to survival. Instead of plotting a murder, he spent months recovering in burn units, undergoing surgeries, and facing the reality of his physical limitations. The fury toward Mooney never disappeared, but it was buried beneath more immediate concerns. In a tragic twist, Pryor's self-destructive impulse kept him from becoming a killer. Even though Pryor's attempt on his own life stopped the murder plan, it didn't repair the damage. The trust between him and Mooney was destroyed forever. Their professional paths crossed occasionally, but the intimate collaboration that once defined them was gone. The fire may have saved Mooney's life, but it couldn't undo the betrayal. Kahn later reflected on the irony. The same flames that nearly killed Pryor spared Mooney, creating a tragic what-if in comedy history. Had Pryor not been engulfed in fire, Mooney might have been murdered in the early 1980s, and one of comedy's most influential writers would have vanished long before his time. Instead, both men lived on, haunted by secrets, silences, and unfinished reckonings. Paul Mooney himself carried the weight of those allegations until his death in 2021. He passed away at 79 from a heart attack after years of battling dementia. By the time Rashon Kahn publicly revealed the story in 2019, Mooney was already too ill to respond or defend himself. His twin sons, Daryl and Dwayne Mooney, vehemently denied the accusations, insisting their father was being unfairly maligned when he couldn't speak for himself. Richard Pryor Jr., however, confirmed enough details to keep the accusations alive. In an interview, he admitted that something had happened to him when he was young, long before the 1980s. He made it clear that whatever relationship existed was not voluntary. His words added weight to Kahn's claims but left many questions unanswered, especially regarding the timeline and details. The revelations shocked the public but did not ignite the kind of widespread industry reckoning seen in other cases. Perhaps it was the age of the allegations, or perhaps it was the untouchable status of both Pryor and Mooney in the comedy world. Either way, the response was muted. Many seemed unwilling to grapple with the idea that two of comedy's greatest figures could be tied to such a dark chapter. Kahn, for his part, pointed to a broader issue: the culture of silence surrounding sexual abuse in Black communities. He argued that what allegedly happened between Pryor Jr. and Mooney reflected a pattern often ignored or hidden to protect reputations. By staying silent, communities allowed abuse to continue while victims suffered in isolation. In that sense, the Pryor-Mooney tragedy was not just about two men, but about a larger failure to confront painful truths. The story ends without closure. Pryor died in 2005 after years of illness, never publicly speaking about the betrayal. Mooney took his secrets to the grave in 2021, his mind lost to dementia before he could offer his side. Richard Pryor Jr. lives with the scars, knowing his father contemplated killing his best friend to avenge him. And comedy fans are left with a legacy both brilliant and haunted. A reminder that behind the laughter was a darkness few could imagine. In the end, the tale of Richard Pryor and Paul Mooney is one of genius intertwined with tragedy. Together, they revolutionized comedy, shattering barriers and speaking truths others were afraid to utter. But the same trust that made their partnership great also opened the door to betrayal of the worst kind. Pryor's rage, his plan for vengeance, and the accident that changed everything reveal the fragile line between brilliance and destruction. Their story is not just about comedy, it's about loyalty, betrayal, pain, and survival. It's about the human cost of genius, the dangers of unchecked trust, and the scars that never truly fade. For Richard Pryor and Paul Mooney, the fire burnt away more than flesh or friendship. It burnt away the illusion that comedy could shield them from the darkest parts of life. In the end, Pryor and Mooney's story is a haunting reminder. Behind the laughter lay betrayal, rage, and survival. A legacy forever scarred by secrets that comedy could never hide.